Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be interviewing Stephan Aarstol of Tower Paddleboards, a company that not only was on Shark Tank, but got Mark Cuban to invest. He is also the best-selling author of the book Hour Workday, which was a bestseller in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and many more. And we've got other new information he's going to be showing us today. Stephan, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Seth.
All right, let's go back in time a little bit. How did Tower Paddleboards get started?
Sure. I've been in the internet business since 1999. They were sort of handing out internet jobs at the time with your degrees. And so I worked in a company for about 5 years and started my own company selling high-end poker chips. That sort of, went up, thought I was going to retire, and then just sort of slowly faded as poker chips got commoditized online. And I was looking for other businesses, and a buddy took me out paddleboarding in 2010. And I tried a number of other businesses that weren't successful. And then when I saw the paddleboard business, it was very similar to the poker chip business. It was this trending sport. And I thought I could sort of see the future in that. We could sell half-price paddleboards, and we would take over the industry.
And then tell us a little bit, I know it's in your book, but tell us, and it was on Shark Tank, tell us a little bit about that journey and how you grew that company.
Yeah, so we're an SEO based company, but essentially we were just selling direct to consumer paddleboards for half price, just sort of cutting out all the middlemen. And we started in 2010. That was the same time that Warby Parker and really a lot of these other direct to consumer brands started in 1,000 different categories. And we just offered a better value proposition. We were selling paddleboards so cheap that for the first couple of years, people thought we were a discounter, and they thought, well, these are just like crap, product. But after a while, and it really took a couple of years to convince people, no, these are actually, some of the best paddleboards, and you can actually reach the company. So once that started to click in, we really started to take off. Being on Shark Tank, what the benefit that gave us was it was a media event, and it wasn't so much that we went on Shark Tank and sold $1 million in paddleboards in a day. It's that we got a lot of articles and press around us just being on Shark Tank. That was actually more important than actually being on the show. And from an SEO perspective, we just got a lot of high-powered links, and it gave us a lot of legitimacy. And then obviously we got Mark Cuban to invest. I'm sort of known as the worst pitch in the history of Shark Tank that still landed a deal because I fell apart on there. I forgot my pitch. I was just sort of silent for minutes, and they're making fun of me. But then I made a comeback, and we got Mark Cuban to invest, and he was a guest shark at the time, so that was one of the early ones.
And then how did you mentioned the media exposure and the SEO juice. How did Mark Cuban help grow your company in addition to the check that he wrote?
Well, when I went on the show, they called me out of the blue to be on the show. I'd never seen the show. It was in season 2 when they called. And I honestly didn't know who these other sharks were. And when I went on there, because I had to go on like 5 weeks later, when I was preparing, and I have really bad memory, and I was worried about remembering the names of everybody on the panel, right? And then 2 days into my sort of 4-day sequester up in, a hotel in LA, they said, Mark Cuban's going to be the guest shark. And I'm like, okay, well, I know that guy, and I looked at that as almost like a celebrity endorsement. I mean, usually you would have to pay him to, be able to talk about him with your brand. And so I really valued his money at about 3 times. So when he came on, that was part of my negotiation was like, I was like, Mark, I want to put your face on our website. Like, or do we have permission to do that? Yes. Okay. Then we signed the deal and we went forward. So that was really it. It's not like he's doing introductions for us. He really wants you to, I think the entrepreneurs he likes best is the ones that just sort of are competent and they'll just sort of run their own show. They can leverage him, they can leverage the show, they can leverage his team. He's got a team around him that can help you with stuff. So, we've been, I think we're his best investment in the history of the show. We're certainly one of his best investments. Going into the show, we had $100,000 in sales lifetime in the history of our company. He invested $150,000 for 30% of the company. And all the other sharks were laughing at him like, oh my gosh, you've way overpaid for this. Like, this is crazy town. Since then we've done over 40 million in sales. I've cashed him out, well over $1 million in dividends, and he still has his stake in the company.
That is an absolutely incredible journey. How did the 5-hour workday come about?
Sure. So we're a beach lifestyle company, Tower paddleboards. We're telling people to go out and, cut out of work and go paddleboarding. Like, work hard, play hard is sort of our company culture. And so we've had this success. In 2014, we were named the #1 fastest growing private company in San Diego. And then the next year we were number 239 on the Inc. 500 list of America's fastest growing companies. So we proved that we could do this fast growth. And we were about, 5 million in revenue at that time. And I was trying to think like, okay, if we want to really blow this up and make this a sustainable brand, an enduring brand, $100 million brand, how do we do that? And so I started reading a lot of books on branding, what those big brands do. And one of the recurring themes was that they live their brand, right? So here we are, a paddleboard company. Our headquarters is literally 2 blocks from the beach, and we're working like a startup. We're successful, but we're not living our brand. But I myself had kind of been living this 5-hour workday for the last 15 years. All my entrepreneurial peers who were showing a lot of success in sort of the current economic environment and the business environment were kind of working like me. You kind of come into the office, head down, knock out your work, and you get out of there. And you're using a lot of efficiency tools and stuff. And so we have sort of this nuclear power at our fingertips. If we use that correctly, we can afford ourselves this sort of luxurious lifestyle. And I said, why don't we do that for the whole company? And so we did an experiment for 3 months. I put pressure on people too. It wasn't just like we went to the 5-hour workday and we're going to a part-time company. I said, okay, we're going to work 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. straight through, no lunch. And if you can't figure out how to be as productive as you were before, you'll be fired. And we'll find somebody who can take that trade-off. So I'm going to give you your life back, but I'm going to ask for, productivity and, cut out the Facebook and the fantasy football at work and online shopping or whatever people are doing at work these days. And so it worked well. After 3 months, we continued it for about 2 years until there were some cracks that sort of appeared. And so then we went to a hybrid model where we do that in the summer only for 4 months. And the off season, we do regular startup hours.
And then talk a little bit about how that helped transform your company.
We're still kicking. We're 11 years into this as an internet company. Especially a product-based one. I think if you can survive like 10 years, that's a pretty good, thing these days. With the 5-hour workday, it basically changed our company culture in some good ways and some bad ways. And one of the good ways was it made us a company culture that was focused on identifying and using productivity tools. So if somebody finds like a hack of something that they use that seems to be saving them a lot of time, they'll share it with the team. So we do a lot of that, and that has made us a very productive team. And I think going into the pandemic, that affected a lot of businesses in different ways. We have now diversified into Tower electric bikes, so it's like a direct-to-consumer e-bike company. We have Tower Beach Club, which is a local event. We kind of office out of the back of this waterfront event space. So instead of paying rent, we collect rent. So we diversify, but going into the pandemic, we'd also walked away from Amazon. So we walked away from about more than half of our revenue in 2017. And so we were downsizing and right-sizing the company. And the bank got nervous because they didn't like what we were doing. I thought we were making all the correct strategic moves, and we were diversifying, and we were shrinking our sort of cost center. And we're positioning ourselves as a more healthy company, but the bank got nervous. They put one of our loans into default, like over $1 million loan. And that was about 6 months prior to the pandemic. Then the pandemic hit, and we thought, uh-oh, this is all over. we're out of business. So we didn't do the 5-hour workday that summer. And I sort of told the team, I said, this is what we've been training for, kind of. You know how to work at twice the speed of most people. So we're going to put that to work. And in 2020, we doubled revenues. And so now we're back on this growth trajectory. And we've changed the 5-hour workday experiment a little bit because there was an entitlement issue that came into it too. And so now in years that we increase revenue, the following year, we'll have 4 months of a 5-hour workday. If we don't increase revenue, we roll up our sleeves and we double down and we work and we get back into that growing direction.
So that's absolutely incredible. I mean, we could spend hours and hours talking about that. What inspired you to write the book?
I never really had an intention to write a book. I mean, I would say, I was good at math in high school, but if my high school English teacher knew I wrote a book, she would probably laugh. It was not great. But I had, because we were an SEO company, I was writing articles for magazines, and I had a company that was sort of helping me get published in, Inc. magazine or Fortune or that type of stuff, basically to build your sort of presence or become sort of a domain expert, right? And I was writing about what we were doing in the company. And, a lot of it was efficiency-based type stuff. And then the first time I wrote about the 5-hour workday, I mean, that article went crazy. It got like 10,000 social shares, right? And I'm not a known writer. So usually it's like 5 social shares, right? It's nothing. And I'm like, holy cow, like this resonates with people. So that was in maybe 2016 or late 2015. And so we decided to write a book on this. And we said, hey, this resonates with people. It's perfectly aligned with our brand. So if people hear about the 5-hour workday, they're going to say, yeah, this company is treating their employees good. I like what they're doing. I wish my company did that. And they might buy a paddleboard from us. So we, did the book, and we put a paddle book in every paddleboard package that we send out, and eBike package that we send out now. And that's how we distribute it. We've sold maybe 3,000 books in the history of this thing. I mean, I don't think going into the book business is a really great business. But we've probably given away 20,000 books. So that's how we're sort of spreading the message. And a weird thing happened in this whole thing is we started to do some press about it, and we got, basically a national press tour. There was press in over 20 countries. We ended up getting in all of the major press, and it really has started, sort of a snowball effect of this sort of work less movement. And it's not all 5-hour workday focused, but some of those like, 4-day work week. There's, there's different types of things. Sweden tried like a 6-hour, workday, and there's definitely a movement. And now we're seen as sort of a central figure in that movement, but we're a 6-person paddleboard company. So we're just experimenting.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on all of that. It's obviously an incredible journey. You get any pushback or confusion versus, Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week?
Yeah, so it's mentioned in the book, and obviously that is a lot of the influence. So the way I have been working, and a lot of my entrepreneur peers have been working the last 15 years, is largely influenced by Tim Ferriss's book, 4-Hour Work Week. And it was about an individual and how to like separate yourself from the workplace, outsource a lot of your stuff, automate a lot of functions, right? And everybody was using that. So what we did is we applied that to an entire organization. How can you not just do this for yourself? Will this work if you do it in an entire organization? So it's really about, or an entire country. How could that do? So that was sort of the difference between it. I mentioned Tim Ferriss's book. I've actually had cocktails with Tim Ferriss before randomly. And he actually tweeted out, after the book came out, something about the book. So I don't know that he 100% supports it, but he's aware of it, and he understands.
Talk a little bit about you were profiled by Fast Company, and you talked about a number of things and related to the 5-hour workday, including your company bumped to a minimum $50,000 salary. What inspired that?
Yeah, that was really done about a year ago. And a lot of that was like during the pandemic, like we couldn't hire people. Like it was weird in the beginning of the pandemic. I mean, I'm talking like in March or April of the pandemic, unemployment's at like 25% or something crazy because all these people just got let go. And we're trying to hire and nobody is applying. And I'm like, what's going on here? It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But I think it was a lot of the stimulus money pumped into the economy, the unemployment. Like people are like, why am I going to work?
Yeah,
I make more doing this.
Issue of people that we were trying to recruit as well, going, I'm just going to sit home on unemployment for 6 months or however long this lasts. I was like, don't you want to work?
Well, my thought was, what if this is really the next Great Depression and you maybe can't find a job for 3 to 5 years in a couple of months? I'm like, you're crazy if you're going to ride this one out, on unemployment. But anyway, so I came to the conclusion, we started in 2010 and my starting salary was still the same as 2010. I mean, it's 10 years later, right? Like it should have went up. So we were at 36,000 before that. We bumped to 50,000. Part of that was influenced by Dan Price's what he's done at his company with. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but he raised his minimum wage to 70,000, and they sort of structured this in after a couple of years. Are you familiar with that or no?
No.
Oh, yeah. So this happened, I don't know, 2013, 2014. And, everybody said, this is crazy. Like, this is never going to work. His company's doing quite well, actually, and their 1-year celebration, because it was right about the same time we did the 5-hour workday. They invited me up to be sort of the guest speaker, I guess. And his employees bought him a car and presented it to him like a year after they had rolled this out. But his sort of mentality was, if I can't run a company that can pay all of my workers like a good living wage, I don't want to be in that business. I'll run a different company, or I won't run a company. And so, I mean, it's sort of an interesting take on things. It's like, if you're going to run a company, and the only way to run that company is to run it off of, slave labor or, paying somebody $10 an hour, you're sort of standing on the back of all these people. Maybe if you're a talented entrepreneur, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should figure out, like, what's the way I can build a company that can support, a bunch of people. So that, my thinking has definitely been influenced by that.
That is absolutely incredible. I mean, with all the success you've achieved, what's your biggest challenge now?
It's a scary world in the e-commerce world. Like I said, our peak was 7.5 million in revenue, and that was probably in 2016. We went all the way down to 2 million in revenue. I mean, we walked away from Amazon. Now we've doubled again, and this year we'll be back up to 5 or 6 million. So we're back on the growth trajectory. But we're in electric bikes now with Tower electric bikes. That's a very competitive market. I mean, it's a different starting a company today, a brand today, than it was in 2010. Advertising is more expensive. Amazon is now taking basically 50% of everything that they sell on Amazon. I mean, that's why we got off of Amazon. But today, Google takes 50% of everything else sold online because it's through advertising. There's these very efficient middlemen in the center of this. And we've actually started a company called nomiddleman.com, where we've aggregated all of the direct consumer brands, and we curated them, basically just the good ones, and put them into sort of an everything showroom. And you can just go on there and find, here's the 3 to 5 best people that sell, ski boots, direct to consumer only. And then you just click through their website and buy from them. It doesn't make any money. It's just sort of an information source. But we've done that in reaction because it's a scary market right now. I mean, a lot of these direct to consumer companies that, raised $100 million, they flamed out in a couple of years. They gave all that money to, Google AdWords or Facebook, and it's not sustainable. They're out of business. So really, we're trying to figure out that nut right now as to how to have a sustainable business. And, our theory is you just got to keep your costs super low. I mean, you got to keep your costs almost negative. That's why we work out of our Tower Beach Club here in San Diego, is because we're not paying rent, right? It's paying us. So we're diversified in the offline world. We have also our Tower eBike repair shop, where we work on any brand of e-bike. That's a local physical business. So we have these local physical businesses that are diversified across 2 product classes. We have online businesses that were diversified across 2 classes. So, when the pandemic hit, our event space went to 0 overnight, right? So this is where I first, learned that this diversification is actually paying dividends already. Our e-bike company shot through the moon. Our paddleboard company almost doubled. And now we're coming out of the pandemic. There's weird stuff happening in the bike industry where you can't get tires made for 2 years. And so we're going to have problems there. The event industry is now just booming, right? So that's kind of what you have to do to survive in this environment, is just keep your costs low. And I think organically grow. And you have to almost like rewind to 50 years ago, where if you want to start a successful brand, keep your costs low, start local, and grow this thing over 20, 30, 40 years. I think that's actually how the brands of tomorrow are going to be grown. It's not going to be go raise, $100 million in VC funding and think you're going to blow this thing up in, 2 or 3 years, cash out to investors and go retire on an island. I don't think that works anymore.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
When I was in the poker chip company, and this was part of Tim Ferriss's book, which is interesting, the 4-hour work week. He talks about this thing called dreamlining, right? And you're sort of mapping out like where you would want to go. And it's just sort of really defining like what you want in, whatever, in a girlfriend, in a career, in, where you're living. And I sort of did this exercise and mapped out like what would be my ideal job. I was an entrepreneur with the poker chip company at that time. I said, I'm here in San Diego and living on the beach. And I'm like, I would like to be the CEO of a surf company. This sounds like fantastic, right? You would take these like exotic trips, on surf trips and, do bikini photo shoots and, you'd have this sort of cool brand and you'd be introducing people to a sport that they would really sort of fall in love with. And, so that was it. And then about 3 years later, my buddy took me paddleboarding and I was like, holy shit, like, that's it. This is the business I should do. And so that's why I started that business. And we are a beach lifestyle company. I mean, someday we may go into clothing and stuff like that, but we do surfboards and skateboards and stuff like that. And our electric bikes are electric beach cruisers. So it's all sort of beach lifestyle related. So that's kind of why I'm in this job. And it's kind of just sort of, I said, this is something I'd like to gravitate towards. And then it just sort of fell in my lap and I knew. And that's sort of the idea of that, there's luck in life, but there's also like, recognizing opportunities when they sort of fall across your plate. Because I think that happens to a lot of people. They don't have a good sense of really where they want to go. But if you have a very defined sense of where you want to go, that's when you're in a position to take advantage of those opportunities as they fall into your lap.
Absolutely. Well, you've had an absolutely incredible journey. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more about everything going on at Tower and the 5-hour workday, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about both?
Yeah, so towerpaddleboards.com or towerelectricbikes.com. And we're a very small company, so you can find all of our contact information on there. If you are a direct consumer brand or you're looking to buy products and you want sort of the best products for the cheapest price, that nomiddleman.com site is a great like research site. So that's it. The 5-hour workday book you can buy on, ironically, Amazon. They do a very good job of selling books. So I highly recommend them.
All right. Of course they do. Well, this has been Seth Greene with Stephan Aarstol. Stephan, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Seth.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.